Hi, this is Cheryl. Welcome to tape number 4. At this point, you should have both of your hearts done. So we did the heat embossed one before. On the one we used with an embossing folder and colored, you should have finished that. All your color should be intact. If you used, regardless of the ink that you used at this point, you want it to be dry. So make sure you can run your finger over and none of the ink is smearing or coming back up or anything like that. If you use Stays-On inks, you can use the Glaze-On product if you want to further seal it in, but it's really not going to go anywhere. Stays-On reacts with other Stays-On type products, other solvent types products, and so it's not going to go anywhere like due to humidity or anything else. So it's really not a necessary step. It's just a possibility. So now we're ready to talk about finishing the card. But before we do that, you know, in your kit you received the pre-cut hearts, and so you might have some questions about exactly how do I cut this Vertigo stuff. It cuts pretty much just like a standard cardstock. I found it very, very easy to use, even in my Cuttlebug, which can be a little bit particular at times in terms of what it wants to cut. So what I did is I used it with my regular thin dies. I placed whatever sandwich is appropriate for the machine that you're using. I cranked it forward through the machine and I cranked it backward, back out. So forward and backward, that's really 2 passes through the machine, and everything was cut. I had absolutely no problem whatsoever. Now, if you're having trouble where it seems like the Vertigo isn't cutting quite through, you might cut to a metal plate. That's what the manufacturer recommends for best results. Again, it's going to depend on what type of thing you're cutting. Everything I cut was a pretty basic shape, and I think that's what you want to do with Vertigo, is stick with more basic shapes. When you get into the really detailed dies, whether it's cardstock or Vertigo or any other material, it's the detailed dies that create the problems in cutting. So if your die is detailed and that's what you need to use for your project, you will want to make sure you're cutting to a metal plate. So let's talk about finishing here. Again, this is my finished card with the clouds. First of all, I added a sentiment to my larger cloud. You can see here I used one of the Tim Holtz Distress inks and heat embossed that. There's many different sentiments you can fit up in that little cloud, so whatever is appropriate for your occasion will work. Then I also used a craft marshmallow and a very light blue ink to edge around my clouds to give them a little bit further dimension. Remember, when you do that, to color most of that ink back off the marshmallow before you touch your cloud with it. You want just a little bit of ink on your cloud, not full strength from the ink pad. So be careful with what you do. Practice being subtle. The real subtle application of ink is what's going to give you the best result. So once you've done that, added a sentiment if that's what you desire, then you can go ahead and place your clouds on the layer. Again, we're dealing with just this pink layer on a white A2 card, so all the finishing and assembling is going to go on the layer first, and then once that's complete, we'll mount it to the card. So the next step is going to be to get your balloons ready to add. Remember, you've got these 1/8 inch white ribbons in. You're going to need to tie these then around the neck of the balloons. That can be a bit of a challenge at times, especially if you have a little arthritis in your hands like I do. Identify the front of the balloon versus the back. I want the little extra tail to be on the back of the balloon, so I started out with a bit of a knot tied in there, and I'm just slipping it over the neck of the balloon. I'm going to pull both ends to tighten that up around that neck, and I've got a really strong tie there. Now, like all satin ribbons, it's going to work its way loose here fairly quickly, and that's just the nature of things. But what I want to do then is turn it to the back, and very close to where it's tied up here at the top with the short end. I'm going to pull that back, and I'm going to grab one of my little micro glue dots, and I'm going to place it, oops, got my finger over top of it. I'm going to place it right here so that I can hold that end very close down. Then I'm going to grab my good scissors, not these crazy things I'm working with. Sorry, I'm just switching hands there on you off camera. And I'm going to cut it very close to where that glue dot is. I don't want much of a tail showing from the back because it does show. You can even see my tiny little tail is showing, but that's a distraction. It's not going to be a problem. I'm going to do the same thing for the second balloon. And then I'm going to place these on the card. So I've got my clouds on at this point in time. I'll add the balloons, again stretching that string straight. You don't want to pull on it too hard. If you pull too hard, you might just pull it right back off the neck of the balloon. But you'll crisscross the balloon strings at the bottom, as I've done here. Where they meet, you'll put the pink bow on. You'll pull the ends of the white strings to the back of your pink cardstock, and you'll tape them down. Now, I forgot to do that with this. I attached my layer before I did my card, so you'll see what I did here. Just pull them to the back of the pink layer, not like I did, but to the back of the pink layer, and just tape them down in place. Then you'll attach the pink layer to the full A2 card, and it looks nice and finished. You won't see the stuff inside like I've got going on there. So it's a very easy finish. How do you attach the balloons to make them stay in place? There's a couple of different methods you can use with the Vertigo. Again, it's a clear product, so you want to be a little careful about adhesives. The manufacturer recommends a clear glue. So I tried my zip dry glue. It's a scrapbook glue. It works quite well for a number of things. It's a quick drying glue, but not as fast as our Scotch quick dry adhesive. So you have to be a little patient with it. You want to use very little of this. It's not what I used with my heart balloons. I used something different that I'll tell you about in a minute, but it's the product, whoops, that I used in this card. So I added just a little bit of my zip dry here at the bottom, at either side, and at the top, and then a couple of places behind these flowers because I thought it's less likely to show. If you look very, very closely, you can see a little bit of my glue line here. Obviously, that's the thing we're trying to avoid. So again, manufacturer says minimize that look by using the clear glues, the ones that are clear in the bottle, and use just a little bit of it, just enough to hold it into place. I also used the zip dry glue on this one where I was attaching the Vertigo version of the ornament onto the gold underneath. I have cut a gold metallic ornament just like this layer here that's right underneath my Vertigo. And so with the metallic paper, I gave myself a double challenge. Plastic over metallic paper, they're two surfaces that don't tend to like to adhere to anything. It worked marginally well. Again, I didn't have too much trouble with my glue showing, but I had a lot of trouble with getting my glue to adhere. I had to be a little creative in making that happen. It mostly involved putting my clear acrylic stamp block over the top. This one's too small, but I had my bigger one over top and something very heavy on top of that until the two things dried together and they stayed flat and they stayed together. So be creative in what you need to do here. Now for my little balloons, I just decided I was going to use glue dots. That seemed to be the thing that worked best. So I was working with these. These are the little micro glue dots. They're the little teeny tiny ones. So you can see them if you look for them. You can see there's one here and here and here. But you know what? They hold my balloons in place on the card and they're not too offensive to look at. So for this, I thought glue dot was the better solution, better even than the clear glue. And that's how you finish the card. It's very, very easy peasy to do. again, experiment with this stuff on your own. There's so many fun ideas for how to use it. I love the application of heat embossing. You can see I used my rattlesnake Vertigo for this one. I turned the pattern sideways, and it just has this very neat effect in addition to the heat embossing. I love the look of this. It's going to make for some fun variety in the cards that I sent. It's a great way to stretch those craft supplies we already have. With the ornament, I love the look of using a complementary color ink for the scroll work. So I've got gold ink on the Vertigo, but then the gold layer underneath, it didn't end up getting lost in there. It ended up being very complementary, and now I have a flat ornament that looks pretty dimensional in this. It's very interesting. It's got a lot of cool results. So there's so many things you can come up with. I'd love to see your projects using Vertigo. I hope that you will take the time to do that. If you do, again, please keep us in mind. Either bring your cards or other projects by the shop, or post them to the page where you found the videos and that sort of thing, so we can see what you're doing. We all learn from one another, and that's kind of the cool part about paper crafting. Thanks for joining me for this class. I really had a great time with it, and I hope you did too. As always, if you have any comments, good or bad, please give us those as well. We want to give you a quality product here, and we're just in the learning stages, so bear with us as we get better about this process. Your comments help us to do that as well. So again, you can comment on the website, provide your comments at the store. There's a variety of ways that you can do that. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.